to the Allah Abba in my closet. I'ma send my praise to the Father, Allah Abba, He my charger. Depart me from my way, maybe small. Allah Abba, He my Father. I was in the maze of the dark. Yeah, I called me, He restored me. That's why I get all praise to the Father. And regardless, He the author. I'ma send my prayers to the heavens, to the Father, Allah Abba. Depart me from my way, maybe small. Allah Abba, He my Father. I was in the maze of the dark. Yeah, I called me, He restored me. That's why I get all praise to the Father. And regardless, He the author of all things, all days and all ways. I'ma walk in Yahweh as always, cause I'm focused on Yahweh, not always.
All praise El Shaddai, Elohim, and Yahashua HaMashiach. All praise and all glory go to the Father. Welcome back to One Deity. I am Yosef Ben Jacob. Let's get right into it. So, first and foremost, the first thing we're going to talk about is the Passover story. All about the Passover story, where it is located at in the scriptures. To fully understand and get a better understanding of the Passover story, you must start in the beginning of the book of Exodus. And in the book of Exodus, it's going to contain the story of the Israelites' affliction, the Most High hearing the cries of the Israelites, the introduction of Moses into the story, and his interaction with Elohim, the Father using Moses invoking the 10 plagues against the Egyptians in the land of Egypt, and then the deletion of the Egyptians' firstborn, man and beast, and finally the Father passing over the Israelites in their exodus out of Egypt. Passover is the 22nd of April on the Gregorian calendar. It is the 14th day, and that 27th of April is the 14th day in the Hebrew lunar calendar, right? So according to the lunar calendar, it is the 14th day of the month, according to the lunar calendar, which simply means the calendar of the moon. And April 22nd is the 14th day of the first month according to the new moon in the lunar calendar, because the new moon was recorded on April 8th, 2024, right? The day of the solar eclipse was the day of the new moon. And the Hebrew calendar, or the lunar calendar, is based on the phases of the moon and when the new moon occurs. So on April 22nd, is the 14th day of the first month according to the new moon in the lunar calendar. Passover is the 22nd of April, which is the 14th day of the first month of Apttmh, and we are celebrating it. Okay. The month of Apttmh, also called Nisan, is the first month of the Hebrew calendar. And I pronounce it Apttmh, like Ahveev, Apttmh. Apttmh is a Hebrew word that means spring or fresh. Again, Apttmh is a Hebrew word that means spring or fresh. The first month of the year is called the month of Apttmh. Again, the first month of the year is called the month of Apttmh, or the first month of Apttmh, the spring months. This month is also called Nisan or Nisan. This is a Babylonian name for the first month of spring. The first month of the year, which is the month of Nisan, or the first month of Apttmh, started on April the 8th, 2024, according to the lunar calendar. which is the sighting of the moon, and when a new moon occurred. And to not bring any confusion, but I have seen many people celebrate this day on different dates. But the real matter at hand is that you, the people, are celebrating this day in spirit and truth, as the Father have commanded us to. I must admit that my spirit had led me to this day, being April 22nd, 2024, as the day of Passover, and had rightfully explained why I was led to this date. And it's simply being because April 8th, 2024 was the day of the new moon, and new moon means new month. 14 days from the night of the 8th is the night of the 22nd, which will be the day I'm celebrating Passover. And this is just a quick illustration, without getting into the science of astrology, on why I chose the day of the 22nd. I also pray that you are celebrating this day in spirit and truth, the day you decide to commemorate the Father for his Passover miracles, that you are reading your scripture to get a better feel, appreciation, and understanding of all the miracles, signs, and events that the Father brought forth with his hands to free our ancestors from slave and bondage at their very time in Egypt and age ago. So, let's get into the main topic of the day and the main thing. And today we're talking all about Passover, or Pesach. Some might pronounce as Pesach, Passover. And let's get right into it. Passover was one of the Most High's wonders and miracles. How did it start? Passover started in the land of Egypt. The 12 tribes of Israel were living and thriving, being fruitful and multiplying after the death of their father, their leader, and great patriarch Yosef. A new king rose over Egypt who didn't acknowledge Yosef. The new king feared Yashael, numbers, because the Most High had made them numerous and fruitful. This caused the king to hate and despise Israel, and ultimately oppress them and deal with them in a way that would decrease and stunt their growth. But the more they were oppressed, the more they increased and spread out. The Egyptians ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites. There were various labors they made them perform, harsh labors at mortar and brick, and all sorts of tasks in the field. Sound familiar, don't it? To me, it sounds just like the American slavery that our ancestors suffered. Let's continue. The Egyptian kings also ordered the Hebrew midwives, who were in charge of delivering the babies of the Hebrew woman, to kill, murder, or discharge the Hebrew boys born to Hebrew women, and to let the girls live. The midwives, fearing the Most High, did not do as the king of Egypt had told them to do. Then the Egyptian king ordered from all his people, every boy that is born you should throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. This same brute enforcement brought forth and played the part in the birth story and glory of Moshe, who some pronounce as Moses. A man from the house of the Levites named Aaron conceived with a woman from the house of Levi named Jochebed. When Jochebed, seeing how beautiful and godly he was, she hid him for 3 months, the baby that is. When she couldn't hide him no longer, she got a basket and placed him along the river banks. And his sister stationed herself at a distance to learn what the universe will have of him. Story has it that Pharaoh's daughter had went to go bathe in the Nile River and discovered the basket alongside the reeds. When she opened it, she discovered Moses, the crying baby. Then Moshe's sister said to the daughter of Pharaoh, "Shall I go and get you a Hebrew nurse to nurse this child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter answered, "Yes." So the girl smartly went out and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to the mother, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will pay you wages." So the woman took the child and nursed it. When the child grew up, she bore him to Pharaoh's daughter, who made him her son, Moses that is. She named him Moses or Moshe, which is the perceived Hebrew pronunciation, Moshe, meaning I drew him out of water. Again, when the child grew up, she bore him to Pharaoh's daughter, who made him her son. Pharaoh's daughter named him Moses, or the perceived Hebrew pronunciation, Moshe, which means I drew him out of water. So Moshe had grown up and lived among the Egyptians, and he was treated as such. One day, Moshe witnessed a Hebrew being beaten and treated wrongly by the Egyptians, and he snapped, struck down the Egyptian, and hit him in the sand. When Pharaoh learned of this matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses escaped to the land of Midian. It was there in the land of Midian that Moses met his wife, Zipporah, and his father-in-law, Jethro. Moses first met the daughter of his father-in-law, Jethro, while he was stationed by a well in the so-called land of Midian. It was at this well that the daughter of Jethro came to draw water, to water their father's flock. When they were harassed by shepherds, they were then driven off. Moses came to their rescue in their defense, and because of his actions, he met his father-in-law, Jethro, who invited him into his home, and eventually gave Moses his daughter, Zipporah, and Moses bore a son with her named Gershom. Time after, while Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law, he drove the flock into the wilderness and came to a place known as Horeb, the mountain of God. It was at this place that Moses met with the Eternal Father. It was Moses' first meeting with Yahweh at Mount Horeb. An angel appeared to him in a blazing fire out of a bush. And the Father spoke to Moses, letting him know he was aware of the Israelites' affliction and oppression that they were suffering in the land of Egypt, and that he came to rescue them from the Egyptians and bring them to the land flowing with milk and honey, the promised land, the covenant land. And then he assured Moses, or Moshe, that he would send him to Pharaoh, and that he, Moses, would free God's people, the Israelites, from bondage in Egypt. The Father even gave Moses a detailed plan and outline on how he was going to deliver the Israelites from bondage and slavery into salvation. with all sorts of miracles, marvels, and signs. But of course, Moses was weary and he didn't believe in himself. And he didn't have faith in himself. He told the Father that he wasn't a man of words and that he should choose someone else to follow the commands, to carry out the task. The Father wasn't happy with Moses' position, but the Father ultimately showed Moses mercy and allowed him to use his brother Aaron to serve as spokesman and to follow through with what the Father commanded. He allowed them to work as a team, Aaron as the prophet, and Moses in playing the role as God. He also gave them a rod so they could perform all the miraculous signs that the Father commanded. So Moses took his wife and his sons and mounted them on an ass and went back to the land of Egypt, and Moses took the rod of God with him. The Father directed Moses that when he returned to Egypt, he should perform before Pharaoh all the marvels that I had put within your power. But the Father stated, I will, however, stiffen his heart so that he won't let my people go. Again, the Father directed Moses that when he returned to Egypt, he should perform before Pharaoh all the marvels that I will put within your power. But the Father also stated, I will, however, stiffen his heart so that he won't let my people go. And that's a good point to keep note of. What was the reason why the Father stiffened Pharaoh's heart is very important. The Father did that for a reason, and we'll talk about that later. And the Father stated that Moses should say to Pharaoh, the Lord said, Israel is my firstborn son. Let my son go so that he may worship me. So time later, afterwards, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did exactly what the Father commanded them to do. One of the first signs and marvels was when Aaron cast down his rod in the presence of Pharaoh and his courtiers or his attendees, and it turned into a snake. Pharaoh then summons his sorcerers and magicians, and they did the same with their spells, and in turn their rods turned into snakes. But Aaron's rod swallowed their rods. But not surprisingly, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he did not respect their wishes. In fact, this is a pattern that's going to happen over and over and over again until the Father humbles Pharaoh once and for all. There were 10 plagues, miraculous signs, that the Father afflicted upon the Egyptians in the land of Egypt to get Pharaoh to let his people go. In most cases, Pharaoh would cry out to Moses and Aaron to get them to plead with the Father so that the Father would show him mercy and put a stop to the unwanted and overwhelming plagues and pestilence. But when Pharaoh would see that there was relief, after the Father would show him mercy, he would become stubborn, harden his heart again, and would not take them seriously. This happened over and over and over again until the Most High Power, Apttmh, delivered Pharaoh his final blow, which was the death of all the Egyptians' firstborn, man and beast, while simultaneously passing over the Israelites who dwelled in the safety of their homes.